Our friend Julie Kelly joins us right now. She is the author behind Declassified on Substack, which is excellent. Highly recommend it to you. Julie, great to have you. Let's start with this. So I feel like and sometimes in high school math you get like half credit if the answer wasn't right, but you were close. I've been saying that Chutkan was going to work at warp speed to get the Trump trial for J6 back on track. I think, in fairness, that is true. Chutkin has broken all speed records, even post Supreme Court decision, for trying to move this along. The piece of the pie that I didn't expect was what we just found out from Jack Smith regarding the J6 trial of Trump. What can you tell us?
Right. So you're absolutely right, Buck. So Judge Chutkan, the Obama appointee, with a long record, as I've reported, of making anti-Trump statements in court as she's handling J6 cases, lying actually about what happened that day as early as last month. So recall, Buck, she set the very quick 7-month timetable between indictment and trial. This case was supposed to go to trial in March. That was put on hold, awaiting the Supreme Court's decision on immunity. So as soon as this got kicked back to her court last Friday, she immediately took action. She set a deadline for today, August 9th, for both sides to file a joint status report on where they were, in terms of how to move forward, pretrial deadlines, et cetera, and then set a hearing date for next Friday. Okay, well, that's called Rocket Docket. Everyone was waiting for this for Judge Chutkan because she's chomping at the bit to get this restarted.
Can I just jump in and tell you, Julie? I've got a few friends who are former federal prosecutors, worked, clerk for federal judges, and they all laugh. They're like, "This is no judge ever moves at this kind of speed." I mean, she is pedal to the metal and then some.
And also, Chief Justice John Roberts noted in their opinion on immunity on a number of occasions, Buck, how quickly this moved from the district court to the appellate court to the Supreme Court. He actually criticized the judges, doesn't mention them by name, but saying how quickly this moved. She didn't even hold a hearing on an unprecedented matter. She just simply wrote this order saying, no, former presidents are not immune from criminal prosecution. That's the way it is. She didn't even have a hearing like we saw routinely in Judge Cannon's courtroom in Florida related to substantive motions. So she was large and in charge, whatever she wanted to do. She imposed the gag order, as you recall. The gag order, Buck, was so egregious and so broad that the appellate court, D.C., a 3-Democrat panel, had to pare it back because it was so overly broad. So, no, obviously, prosecutors, people who are fair-minded, are shocked to see her do this. So now Jack Smith had to file last night. I don't think anyone was expecting this, including Trump's attorneys, asking for an extension of the deadline on the status report and the status hearing. So this basically will push this into late August, mid-September for a hearing, and we'll see what Judge Chutkan comes back with. Now, she is the final say, so she could say, no, I'll give you another week, and that's it. I want to get this rolling. But to see Jack Smith actually have to come back and pull the reins on Judge Chutkan himself, that really speaks to what a partisan political hack Judge Chutkan is.
Yes, and she's operating exactly as we have been describing it for some time now. Or the mentality is obvious for all to see. This is a get Trump at any cost, as fast as possible operation. But explain to me the Jack Smith part of this. He's got to know more than anyone that delay is the enemy right now. Unless what? Why is he not ready for this? Because I did not foresee this at all.
Well, first of all, he's got a real mess on his hands, Buck, not just with the immunity ruling by the Supreme Court that established these 3 separate buckets of immunity that he will have to balance in terms of what his indictment says. He also has to deal with the Fisher opinion, and that was the Supreme Court overturning how the DOJ had applied that 1512C2 obstruction of an official proceeding felony against 350 plus J6ers, including Trump. That count represents 2 of the 4 counts in Jack Smith's indictment. Furthermore, Buck, the Supreme Court said not only can you not charge for these protected conduct in office that we view as immune from prosecution, you can't use anything as evidence in any part of the court proceedings, including grand jury. Well, we already know that he hauled in DOJ officials, something that the Supreme Court said very clearly fell within the power of the presidency and executive authority to push his Department of Justice to investigate election fraud or even consider replacing his acting Attorney General, Jeffrey Rosen, at the time. So his whole indictment is tainted. So he's really got a major problem on his hands. Now, a political angle here, Buck, you may have noticed that January 6th has kind of disappeared as a key campaign message from the Democrats, haven't you? It's kind of disappeared from the headlines. Even the J6 beat reporters aren't covering the DNC pipe bomb story, the report that came out from the Inspector General that said Kamala Harris was 20 feet from what the FBI said was a viable, lethal, explosive device. That has all been completely ghosted. So it could be that Jack Smith is once again doing the dirty work of the Democrats and the Biden regime. They do not want this back in the headlines. And so perhaps that's part of it as well.
Yeah, it would seem like there would be a few, and I'm glad you laid those out, a few different intersecting motivations here for the delay, because this is, I've got to assume Judge Chutkan is like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is supposed to be a 1-2 punch. I move it super fast. You just keep going, So I'm sure and to your point, she may say, no, man, you've got to come back here and move at my pace. Like, I'm not letting you screw this thing up. The Get Trump operation is first and foremost. Maybe she'll see the politics of this, though, as you just laid out, and back off. We shall see. I think that's an important part of all this. And now I just want to get your take, if I could, Julie, on the hiding of Kamala Harris. I did see, I think you shared it, the Rasmussen poll that has Trump back up a bunch. To me, the media is expecting everybody to just accept that they're running a candidate that they just picked, that they switched the whole race to because they said so, and we're not allowed to know what's going on with this person. Like, that's the whole game.
It absolutely is. I mean, we saw this with Biden in the basement in 2020, but there they were protecting, this older man during COVID. So the media still did not do its job. But Buck, to watch the national news media now allow Kamala Harris to get away with not just holding a press conference, but absolutely no sit-down interviews. And I think her team said yesterday, she might do something towards the end of the month. This is so egregious, and it speaks to why the American people do not trust our national news media anymore. To watch them be so compliant, and that's putting it nicely, right, Buck, to this strategy to keep Kamala Harris, a very unpopular vice president. She didn't even make it to the Iowa caucuses when she ran for president in 2020. She's far left and picked a radical far left running mate. They are going to, because the media is on the side of the Democrats, and they will do whatever they can to make sure that Donald Trump does not get into the White House again. And it's really irresponsible because, as Donald Trump said yesterday during his press conference, we are at a very dangerous point in our history. Our country, what's happening here, what's happening abroad. This is not a time to put in an empty suit like Kamala Harris, untested by the media, and expect her to be able to handle all of these crises. It's really appalling to see the media behave this way.
Julie, are you, one thing we've been talking to, Clay and I have been talking about a lot, and certainly guests that we've had on this week, are you still feeling confident in Trump's prospects here?
I mean, I do. Look, we have some things going for us this time around that we didn't in 2020. Obviously, COVID, the fallout of the BLM riots, the energizing of the base because of that, crazy or not. But we do have some tightened true election integrity laws in some of these states. We now see an opening of the investigation, reopening into Georgia's 2020 fraudulent election. I think the big game changer, honestly, is Elon Musk and X. I mean, think of the suppression campaign between big tech and the FBI and the Democratic Party in 2020. That's not going to happen. I think that's a game changer for our side. But look, we have to act like we're 10 points down. And so does Donald Trump, and so does J.D. Vance, everyone on our side, and the Trump campaign. We cannot believe that, these tight polls are going to stay that way. I think he needs to be aggressive and smart, stay on message, which I thought for the most part yesterday he did that. And really, more importantly, push the news media, shame them however we possibly can into forcing Kamala Harris to answer questions, sit for interviews, and take a press conference like a normal presidential candidate should.
You mentioned Elon, Julie, and I'm a big Elon fan, more so for Musk and SpaceX than anything else. I'm not a big electric cars guy, but whatever. I think what Elon's doing is incredible. And I think it will play a big role in this election that X is no longer under total communist domination, that it's actually a free platform, certainly the freest online speech platform of significance that's out there. Did you see this, though, that he has also sued a group of advertisers for antitrust violations, saying that they have been trying to boycott advertising on X? I mean, as a conservative, I have wanted this for such a long time. The ad cartel stuff that goes on, the advertising cartel stuff, where a lot of the sort of fancy Madison Avenue ad agencies and the big digital, a lot of the big digital agencies just pretty explicitly go against conservatives and target and boycott conservatives together. It is anti-competitive. It's actually against the law. I mean, I'm so glad Elon is actually taking the fight to them.
It is. He's such a breath of fresh air, and you can tell that he really means it. He's very authentic. He loves his country. He believes in free speech, and he has the money and the power and influence to take on bullies that, quite frankly, our side has not had. I mean, we had Donald Trump, and he did a good job to the extent that he could until they've tried for the better part of a decade every way that they possibly could imagine to destroy him. But Elon Musk is the richest man, I think, in the world. He's very outspoken. He's not easily intimidated at all. And I think he believes that he's doing right, not just for himself and his business interests, but really for America. And I think that truly makes him a patriot.
Go check out Declassified on Substack. Julie Kelly's work is there, and follow her on X, the platform we were just talking about. Julie, always great to talk to you. Thanks for making the time.
Have a great weekend, Buck. Thank you.
Finally, there's a credit card for American conservatives created by people who see the world the same way you and I do. It's called Coin, and it's backed by Visa. What makes this card different is that it invests in conservative-minded charities, in addition to giving you 1% cash back on every major purchase you make. Most credit card companies wouldn't dare donate $1 to a conservative entity, but Coin does so proudly. Coin is helping a nonprofit organization, for example, by the name of Rescue 22. It rescues dogs, provides them with specialized training. It's an amazing story. And then those specially trained dogs work with disabled veterans as their service dogs. I mean, it's just beautiful. I love dogs, love veterans. You're bringing dogs together to help veterans. It's such a great cause. Sign up now for America's conservative credit card at coin.com. And every time you use your Coin credit card, you'll be getting 1% cash back. So that's good. And you'll be supporting organizations like Rescue 22. Coin.com is where you go. Coign, Coign.com. Be sure to select Clay and Buck in the How Did You Hear About Us section on the website. That's coin.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details.